And welcome to the Anthony and Ari Unfiltered radio program here on the Talkline Network. Here now are your hosts, Anthony and Ari.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Anthony D'Esposito, former congressman, side by side with New York State Assemblyman Ari Brown. And this is the first episode of Anthony and Ari Unfiltered, where we will talk about everything and anything that's going on in the world today. Kid from Franklin Square, the guy from Island Park. We are truly going to be unfiltered. Looking forward to a great show, Anthony. Same, Ari. So what do you think about the Sydney Sweeney thing? I think she's what's happened across America is they put a good-looking girl to really do their job, right? They were to market jeans, and the left-wing progressives have completely lost their mind. But I will have to say, I give kudos to American Eagle for standing by the ad. And the America is also their stock have gone through the roof. Apparently loving America now is a hate crime with people. They canceled Paul Revere, and now they're coming for Daisy Duke. That's right. Absolutely. We're behind her all the way. Absolutely. What I think is crazy is that you can't even, I was in the mall the other day, you can't get the jeans anywhere. People are buying them. They're selling off the shelves. And that's because you have someone who believes in America, loves America. And now they recently found out she shoots guns and she's a Republican. Now they really hate her. A little before your time, reminds me when I was a kid, Brooke Shields did a similar ad. We all loved it. Was that the Calvin Klein ad? The Calvin Klein ad, yeah, that's it. So now we have Sydney Sweeney. More power to her. So let me ask you, I got to deal with this clown, Zohan Mamdani, whatever the heck his real name is, because he never shows up like most of the Democrats in office. What do you think of this guy? It's scary. It is very scary as to what New York City has become. I think, we're both lovers of music, especially Billy Joel. He's a Long Island legend, and he said we could see the lights go out on Broadway. And I think truly in this election, we could see the lights go out on Broadway. But I think, what people need to focus on is the fact that, part of the problem is this ranked choice voting. I mean, you could literally get 11% of the vote in the largest, biggest city in the world and become mayor. And that's exactly what happened. Did you see Pocahontas? Elizabeth Warren endorsed him. Yeah, it's like you always like to use the expression, a clown show. It is. It's a clown show. You cannot rationalize with irrational people, but they literally want to take over New York City, and they're being embraced by what is now. Just the other day, Kamala Harris was on Colbert. It's the final stages of Colbert, thankfully, because the show stinks. But she was asked, who is the face, who's the head of the Democratic Party, and she didn't answer because she couldn't answer. The fact is that the progressives and the left wing of the Democratic Party are fighting to take it over. And right now, I travel the country and I talk to a lot of people from across the nation, and the face of the Democratic Party, as much as some Democrats, especially the ones that we're used to around these parts, who try to claim they're moderate, but yet their voting cards tell a different story. There is no question that Zohan Mamdani is the face and the future of the Democratic Party. And AOC. By the way, this is the Anthony and Ari show Unfiltered. We're on WNEW 102.7 FM and WSNR 620 AM. I want to paint a little picture people don't understand. I'm in Albany. Typically, obviously, the Republican side of the aisle is filled and the Democrat side of the aisle, for the most part, is empty. They never panned, us. They always show the speaker because they'd see empty seats. Right. But the real empty seats is the Zohan Mamdani. He swipes in at 9 a.m. I have never seen this guy on the floor. He's got campaigning to do, he's got to push his communist agenda. What about last year and the year before also? This is typical of that. But also, nothing to do with his age. I've been working for 50-something years since I'm a kid. But here truly is a 33-year-old kid. Never worked a day in his life. Never understood what it means to raise a family or do anything like that. He's going to run the most important city in the United States. And not only that, give everything away, right? He wants government-funded supermarkets. He wants to decriminalize prostitution and drug use. He wants to abolish our jails. He basically wants to piggyback on the work that Governor Cuomo and Governor Hochul have done, whether it's cashless bail, criminal justice reform, handcuffing the police officers. He wants to take that to the next level.
So let me ask you something. You, me, and Sid Rosenberg have talked about this. Who's our guy
For the governor's election?
for the mayor? of New York
For the
City?
mayor of New York City. I mean, listen, as we would all say, I would love to see Curtis be the mayor of the city of New York. I think that there's nobody that fights harder. There's nobody who believes in it more. But I'm just not certain that, maybe this is the year where the Democrats, are able to split the vote and we can get a Republican into Gracie Mansion. But, I have disagreed with him fundamentally on so many things, but I will say that, he has turned a corner in that it seems like he's giving the NYPD, which obviously I have an affinity and a love for, he's taken the handcuffs off and letting them do real police work. I think the fact that the current mayor is now working as much as he can or seemingly can with the administration to make the city safer is a step in the right direction. And, if you're going to have to choose from a Democrat, obviously Mamdani is not the guy. I can't stand, Cuomo. And at least Eric Adams, we know what we have.
I'm a big Curtis guy. I'll always support Curtis, a hero to all of us. 50 years, strong, bold, courageous. That's the only guy I'm looking at. I don't want to think about anybody else. What do you think what's happening with Tulsi Gabbard, Pam Bondi going after the other clown show, the Biden-Obama situation over there, what they did with the fake Russiagate?
I mean, you think about it, this was a manufactured, they were manufacturing intelligence. I mean, this isn't just politicizing intelligence. This is weaponizing our intelligence system. And, during the campaign, President Trump was wearing hats and t-shirts made. President Trump was right about everything. And maybe it's not everything, but as the days pass, it's certainly closer to everything, right?
You know why I love President Trump? He doesn't hold back in any way, shape, or form. I thought some kid made that video of Obama going to jail. That was President Trump that did that. This is the problem with Republicans. Though the Democrats are soft and weaklings with their shaven heads and purple hair, Republicans aren't really much better. We have hearings and hearings, but nothing happens. I think we must see someone go to jail at the high level. Hillary Clinton. Obama's not going to jail because he was president. Certainly the crimes that Biden had committed. What do you think about that?
I mean,
law enforcement officer yourself.
I think that there's no question that there's going to be accountability. And I think that's what Pam Bondi and Kash Patel have said from Jump Street, that they are going to hold those accountable who violated public trust, who have utilized our institution and our democracy to, I mean, really, they keep saying it's the Russian hoax. I mean, it's really the Russian attempted coup, right? I mean, they wanted to take our government away. They wanted to change the outcome of an election for president of the United States of America. I mean, not that it would be okay in any election. This is the president of the United States of America.
What you said is very important. And I don't like when people say, well, you can't prosecute him, he was president. But treason against the country, treason and working with our enemies should be prosecuted at the highest level.
And I've said this over the last few weeks since this story broke. And I think it's one of the things that, while it's not, I guess, the sexy part of the story, it's part of the story that has really changed the country. If you think about this, you think about the Russian attempted coup, the hoax, the trying to influence or influencing of our presidential election and changing the outcome of democracy. That is all terrible, it's all crimes. But one of the effects that we've seen is the division in the United States of America. The division that we see now, the hatred, the violence, the rhetoric. I mean, that was blossomed from this. I mean, so you talk about perhaps not a direct result, but this is a catastrophic result that the country is now facing or has been facing. And I hate to say it, but I mean, I don't see, I think every day we kind of grow further apart. I think that there are more people, thankfully, for people like us who run under the Republican conservative banner.
I think President Trump is bringing us together. Look how he brought in the black vote and the Hispanic
I agree.
vote.
And that's what I was just going to say. I think that, President Trump has, when you ask him, what do you want to be remembered as? He wants to be remembered as a peacemaker. But he also, when making peace, he wants to be a unifier. And he's brought demographics together that quite frankly, you and I both know the Democrats have just taken advantage of and taken them for granted. They don't go into certain communities because they say, we already have those votes. We're different. We go into every community because it matters. President Trump goes.
I knock on everybody's door. I don't just go to Republican. I go to Democrats. We're all
think about President
you and
Trump.
I are Long Islanders.
He's in the middle of a campaign for swing states across the country. Where does he hold a rally? In the South Bronx.
South Bronx. What a guy. So you're listening to Congressman Anthony D'Esposito, New York State Assemblyman Ari Brown. We're on WNEW 102.7 FM and WSNR 620 AM. The Anthony and Ari Show Unfiltered. And boy, are we going to be unfiltered. Let me shift gears just for 1 second. It's okay, Congressman. I'm the only yarmulke-wearing Republican in state history. I was the first guy in office a couple decades ago to wear a yarmulke in office. I stand alone. 9 bills in the Assembly, New York State Assembly on anti-Semitism. Can't get my Democrat colleagues, especially even the ones with yarmulkes, to stand with me on these bills for the most part. Some do. But most other groups will. I can't get them out of committee, my bills. This whole issue with October 7th and what's happened to the Jewish people and what's happening in the universities. You have gone to Columbia, stood strong with the Jewish people in a big way. Just let's talk about this for a moment here. Israel, the only nation in the world where an Arab or a Muslim can become part of parliament and own real estate in that region. You think a Jew, or forget about that, you think a Palestinian could go to any other country and be a member of parliament and parliament-only land? Look how the Muslims are murdering their own. The Chinese are murdering the Muslim Uyghurs. You don't hear anything going after Israel. What do you think? You're not going to be able to solve Middle East problems on a 26-minute show. But where do you think this is going to go?
So I firmly believe that the negotiations with Hamas are going nowhere. I think that, as we said from the beginning, those negotiations, I think that there was hope, but you're dealing with a terrorist organization. There's no, we saw recently there's some nations who, we disagree with who have taken part and called for this two-state solution. It's a two-state delusion. I mean, it's not.
They had 2 states. They had Gaza, and what did they do? They took billions of dollars, lined their pockets. Arafat's daughter is worth $8 billion for the money.
And they don't want a two-state solution. They want a state that eliminates Jews and completely destroys the state of Israel. So I think that really what it comes down to is, Hamas and these terrorist proxies need to be eliminated. And it's sad to say, I mean, we saw recently with the video that was put out, right? I mean, they're animals. Here, dig your own grave and then starve to death. I mean, these are the people that we're trying to negotiate with. And I think that also what's important is Hamas has become such a household name, right? That people are almost, confused. Like, we need to remember, Hamas is not a government. Hamas is a terrorist organization.
And by the way, just along that, where is Palestine? Who were the Palestinians? You know what the Palestinians were? When the Jews were expelled after the destruction of the Second Temple, the Romans wanted to mock the Jews. They called the Jews Philistina. The Jews, if you look at my friend Danny Platt, Danny Platt's father. If you look at his father's passport, he was born before 1948, it says Palestine, because that's where the Jews lived. We never left. We're the only true indigenous people of the world. And people say the good Palestinians. Are there? I don't know. In every school, they're taught to murder you and to murder me. I'm just a little Satan. Most of the big Satan I'm in America. They're after both of us. So they go after the Jews first. And this circles back to one of our first conversations that we had. Who supported Rape is Resistance from River to the Sea? Zohan Mamdani. This is his call for destruction. Now all of a sudden he's a supporter of the police. It's baloney. He'll be a supporter of the police, or at least stop saying defunding the police for 5 minutes until he gets into office. Let's talk about that once again, about who he really is, because this is the issue of our times.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Zohan Mamdani has made it very clear. Look, you have these individuals who, and this is like it is a pandemic in politics, so to speak, right? You have someone like Zohan Mamdani who, is really, I mean, he's the poster child of the Working Families Party, right? Then they win a primary and they realize, uh-oh, now I have a problem because most people don't believe in the things that I've said. I just won because there's ranked choice voting and I got, 11% of the vote or whatever it is. But we see it with other elected officials too. I mean, take our current member of Congress, Laura Gillett. She ran for town supervisor under the Working Families Party, who has proudly said, we want to defund the police. And now they try to take a step back. Oh, well, I didn't really mean that. And to the point where they don't even want the Working Families Party to run under the banner because they're afraid of what the outcome may be. But you can't change what you believed in. You took the endorsement of a party like that because you wanted the votes and you believed in their rhetoric and their hatred that they're spewing. And people see right through Zohan Mamdani. And the fact is that you called for the defunding of police. You called, you want social workers to respond to calls. Let me ask you a question. How would a social worker have responded to that shooting last week in Midtown Manhattan? You had a member of the NYPD who is, by the way, I mean, really is just the epitome of the American dream. Came from a different country, 2 children, has an uncle that lives in Valley Stream, just a couple of miles from here. And he had another kid on the way, and he was working what we call in the NYPD paid detail, which means you're in NYPD uniform, you get paid by a vendor to provide. And it's the moment he took action, he was on duty. He was shot because he was wearing an NYPD uniform. A social worker would have stopped that. And then you fly back from Uganda and go visit the family and say how sorry you are. This is a family of country. You want to defund them. You want to take the handcuffs out off of there.
The opposite of who you always are, Congressman Anthony D'Esposito, a decorated police officer. Always. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
One thing close to me that's been in the news today. We've had this thing, Moms for Liberty are now on the terrorist watch list. Did you imagine this? Only in this type of America are drag queens lauded and parents who are trying to protect their children. I'm a father of 7, grandfather of almost 5 now. I need to see this lunacy happening, and parents are being put on a terror watch list.
Well,
What do you think about that?
It's like what our great chairman Joe Cairo says all the time, right? The world is upside down, and this is a perfect example. I mean, whether it is fighting about a good-looking young woman wearing jeans because she believes in America, whether it's funding drag queen bingo in Iraq. I mean, these are the things that the left are cheering for. I mean, think about it. We have members of Congress, members of the United States Senate traveling to a foreign country to meet with an illegal criminal migrant. How about defending the Americans that you
were raped and murdered every single day?
Think about all of the children who were killed by fentanyl that came over our southern border. Think about the kids who were raped and murdered at the hands of illegal migrants. Think about women and children who were trafficked by the cartels to get into this country, but yet you're flying to another country to sip margaritas with someone who the media has made into just a Maryland dad. He's not a Maryland dad. He's a criminal migrant who came into this country illegally. And the last time I checked, when you come here illegally, people keep saying, well, they get due process. Due process about the Constitution. You came here illegally. You violated the Constitution to get here, but now you want the Constitution. You want to wrap yourself in the Constitution to defend yourself.
You're so right, Congressman. You're listening to Congressman Anthony D'Esposito, Assemblyman Ari Brown on WNEW 102.7 FM and WSNR 620 AM.
So, all right, I gotta say, we've been fighting the good fight together on this whole offshore wind and battery storage facility fiasco. I mean, this is a green energy scam that was obviously boosted and funded by the Biden administration, but really fueled and rammed down our throats by Governor Hochul. And it has really been it's been an honor not only to fight that fight, but we've had some great wins. We've suffered some unfortunate losses, but I think that we've been able to really
coalesce together.
And meet new people,
Democrats
exactly.
and Republicans.
So let's talk about that.
So today's newspaper, Newsday, certainly they're not a fan of Ari Brown. they had an article about battery storage. And I said to myself, you know, how is it that Doreen Harris, the head of NYSERDA, has magically in her town a restriction on battery storage in her hometown? So I tweeted out a post, a quote today. Let's see it next to Carl Hasty's home, near Kathy Hochul's home, near Andrea Stewart Cousins' home. Put the battery storage next to their home. You're going to put it 100 feet, right? A battery storage that cannot be put out. You're going to ruin our beautiful vista, our coastline. You want to put wind turbines? Put it 100 miles out. You're going to put it 13 miles out, so we're going to ruin the view from Long Beach. Just have EMF radiate and destroy people's lives. No.
Yeah, and I think, you know, what so many don't really see, and I think we've been able to really tell the story, but I mean, Governor Hochul could care less what we think down here. I mean, we've been able to fight pretty hard and use our voices and use our friends, people, you know, groups like Protect Our Coast. I mean, who have really come together. And
Christina Kramer, Michelle Leo,
they're fighters who, you know, I would say that, you know, you rewind back 3 years ago and perhaps on a political fundamentals, we probably, me and you agree, but we may not have agreed with them on everything politically, you know, fundamental politics. But this issue has brought us together and really been able to grow our support and make people realize that, you know, the great Tip O'Neill, a Democrat, always said all politics is local, and this was one of those situations. But it is so local that, you know, I always have to share this story because it just highlights the hypocrisy of Kathy Hochul when they wanted to abandon our parkland, you know, on the beaches, and they needed a home rule bill. And you remember, me and you called the city council, then run by Democrats, and we said, listen, let's go on to the Long Beach Boardwalk. Let's do a press conference together. Me, you, Senator Patricia Cantoneri Fitzpatrick, the Democrats from Long Beach, and say, we do not want to alienate our parkland. We want to protect our coast. And they said, absolutely not. Why? Because they were scared of Kathy Hochul. And when you and Senator Cantoneri Fitzpatrick, you know, had the chutzpah to say, we're not carrying the bill because the people that we represent.
What they gave it to some people from Brooklyn who, when I debated
Brooklyn and the Bronx.
Have you ever been to Long Island?
They got confused between King's Highway and King's Pharmacy, you know.
That's exactly right. And you know what? That's what the New York State Legislature is all about. It's about city-centric mindset. They don't understand that you and I, us as Long Islanders, we don't care about Democrat or Republican. We care about keeping our suburban way of life whole and intact.
And that's one of the reasons why 2026 is so important, because the single party rule in New York State hasn't been helpful to everyday New Yorkers with common sense. Thankfully, we have, you know, people like you and Ed Rod
and fighters like you. I can't wait to get you back into Congress, my friend.
Look forward to it.
Anyway, what else is on your mind? Besides Sydney Sweeney, I'm just very distracted by that the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think that there's a lot going on. We'll see. I think that the Republicans have to do a really good job during this August break, which, you know, I think, you know, we have helped. I did an article in the Five Towns Jewish Times last week about the wins in the big, beautiful bill, you know, and we say this all the time. I mean, I remember one of the first things that I learned going to Congress, people say, what was the thing that surprised you the most? And, you know, in Nassau County, you know, us Republicans, you know, we are a team. You know, we may disagree on things, but, you know, when we go out on the field, we play as a team. And then you get to Congress and you realize a Republican from New York is very different from a Republican from Kansas or Indiana or Texas. And you kind of have to learn. And it's one of the things when people say, well, what was the best preparation for you going to Congress and dealing with, you know, people in your own party and another party? And I say, you know, and I wouldn't admit this in front of my parents, but the best education I ever had was being a New York City police officer, a New York City detective, where, you know, I always worked in a team-based atmosphere, guys and girls, different color skin, different religion, different economic backgrounds, different political ideologies, but my life depended on them and theirs on me. And we got out of the car to do what we had to do and live the oath that we took. And I think you learn how to compromise. You learn how to talk to people. And people say all the time, oh, you know, just vote the bill down. Well, if there's 80% good and 20% bad, why kill the bill? I mean, I think our delegation, you know, Andrew Garbarino, Nick LaLota, Mike Lawler, They did a great job in negotiating.
Hey,
SALT.
you're not giving enough self credit. You were a big proponent of the SALT, and thank you.
Yeah.
Long Island owes you a lot. New York owes you a lot for getting that.
And we were able to deliver. And then you have people like Tom Suozzi, you have people like Laura Gillen who campaigned on restoring SALT. And mind you,
what is SALT?
It's the state and local tax deduction. It allows you to deduct more on your taxes. During the first Trump administration, there was a $10,000 limit put on it, which did strap a lot of Long Islanders, as you know.
You have $40,000 in taxes. You only can deduct $10,000.
Exactly. And
thank you for that.
I think what's important is that, us in government, we're never going to always make the right decision, right? And I think, President Trump was very clear when he put those tax laws in place, and he said, this hurt some people in New York. And when he was at the Nassau Coliseum, he flat out said, Anthony, we are going to work to restore SALT. And he did just that. He kept his promise. And you have people like, again, Gillen, Suozzi, their party had the White House, had the Senate, and had the House of Representatives for years and didn't restore one penny of SALT. Now they have the opportunity to put their mouth or their money where their mouth is, put their voting card is, and they voted no. They literally are responsible, or could have been responsible. Thankful the Republicans were able to pass the bill, but they would have, if successful, Tom Suozzi and Laura Gillen would have been responsible for the largest tax hike in American history. When you look at your tax bill this year or the next tax year, and you see that you're putting more money into your pocket, that is thanks to Republicans. And Gillen and Suozzi can campaign however they want.
Modest, though,
they're lying.
You were responsible for a lot of that. Thank you. And that's why we need you back in office, Congressman Anthony D'Esposito. We're on WNEW and WSNR, the Anthony D'Esposito, Ari Brown Unfiltered show.
So let's bring it local. What do you got going on in your local neck of the woods stuff?
Local neck of the woods, Cedarhurst is having their annual sidewalk sale, which brings tens of thousands of people from out Long Island. Just want to shift back for one thing. I'm in a Jewish community. I'm not just covering a bald spot. I'm Orthodox and Jewish. I have a message for my Jewish listeners. This is your opportunity to do the right thing and stop voting for the people that are looking to destroy you. Time and time again, Jewish people do the wrong thing. 40% only voted for President Trump or something like that. Are you freaking kidding me? You have Mamdani coming in. Vote the right way. Vote for Curtis Sliwa. Stop voting. They're going to hate you. They're going to hate you no matter what, and they're laughing at you. I've heard my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, let's go to our useful idiots who are still Jewish Democrats. Let's use them and weaponize them against their own people. It's enough already. Start voting Republican, and we can make changes like the changes you've made for us with SALT and other things when you were in Congress. You were a councilman in town of Hempstead. Remarkable things that you've done for all of us, and I thank you time and time again for that.
So you have a sidewalk sale in Cedarhurst. Thousands of people show, right?
We are the preeminent shopping district of the South Shore. My little tiny Cedarhurst, 1 square mile, 2 blocks. I am the 3rd busiest village court in the state, which means people are coming from all over, not just Jewish people, Christians, Jews, Muslims. We try to bring people together.
And right here in Island Park, we have our tradition. First week of September, the Thursday of September, starts our Feast of San Gennaro right here in the village of Island Park.
People think, we're maybe two opposite guys. We're both of Italian descent. Right. My mother was Italian. My grandmother was Italian. You're of Italian descent. So good 2 Italian boys getting together in this format. That's like the 2 good-looking guys.
And amazingly enough, we've gotten through the first almost 30 minutes of Anthony and Ari Unfiltered on WNEW 102.7 FM, WSNR 620 AM, and 2 Italians have not cursed yet. That's right. That's progress.
That's right. Anthony, this is a great show.
Absolutely. Ari, we'll do it again soon. Thanks for listening. Tune in. We're going to be doing this once a week. We're going to have some great guests from across the country. We'll not only focus on what's happening right here locally on the beautiful Long Island.
Let's get Sydney Sweeney on.
That's it. She's got great genes.
Thanks, everybody.
And you've been listening to the Anthony and Ari program here on the Talk